What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to episode 127 of the Lombard Trucking Show. Thank you all once again for tuning in. As always, you can listen to the Lombard Trucking Show every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the REITs Across America Radio Network on iHeartRadio. And as always, before we get rolling, this episode is brought to you by the number one crew out there removing added sugars from the American diet. Was just at Walmart recently filming some content to talk about how you can get Super Coffee available nationwide at Walmart. And in that video I made on Instagram, I went into exactly what I was able to do once a week while I was over the road as a truck driver. And for any of you drivers out there or anybody in the industry who works with drivers, always implore them of that option of going out there at least once a week. So if you're a fleet manager, dispatcher, you should be encouraging this behavior to your drivers of, hey, you should be grocery shopping. From a managerial standpoint, I know, technically dispatchers, fleet managers, and managers, or just managers in general at regular jobs are not babysitters or parents. But in this wheelhouse of how this industry works, of people, of drivers, some of them, especially the new ones, going out over the road by themselves, this is their first time, could be their first time ever away traveling from home. You should be trying to coach them on healthy habits, which is hopefully what that's the mission of this show, and the mission of the entire Lombard Fit Motor Freight brand is to try to change that aspect industry wide. And so if you are a driver, you can go to Walmart. You might not be able to sleep at every single Walmart overnight, but you can always pull in there. I've done it on a 30-minute break, gone in, pulled the yellow tab, off duty, walked right in, and I was out with 28 minutes, still 2 minutes to spare before taking off on a quick 30-minute break. You can do it on a reset if you're lucky enough to drop and hook your trailer, use personal conveyance. That is the time to do it. And again, if you're looking for that healthier, better for you option compared to Java Monster or those Starbucks Frappuccino drinks, grab yourself one of those delicious Super Coffee drinks, or stock up when you go on home time. Go on Amazon, use the discount code Lombard20 for 20% off your first order on Amazon. But let's dive into the episode. So 127, just me today. And you can tell by the title, Diet Starts Monday. Kind of a funny euphemism phrase that you've probably heard, or maybe you've said at least one time in your life, like, diet starts Monday, you've had a rough weekend, or it's the beginning of the year, or what have it, or you need to make a change. And it's almost become like a sarcastic phrase, which is why I gave it the title of the episode. And it has to do with a conversation I had recently with a gentleman who was talking about changing their fitness routine, getting active. And I was, talking about Orange Theory and just, making recommendations. And, they had said that I'll maybe consider it in the new year. It is, at time of recording, September 12th. If your mindset is already in the position of, I guess I'm just going to blow it off and wait until next year. So we're talking half of September still left, October, November, and December. So 3.5 months, you're just chalking up as an L, as a complete loss of maybe trying something new or working towards, making some sort of improvement with what you've got going on health and fitness wise. I mean, imagine that mentality from the business aspect. Well, we had a bad Q2 and Q3 is going to close out bad. So I guess we'll just maybe make some changes going into the beginning of the year. It's one thing to forecast how you think the next year is going to look, but imagine just saying, we're going to blow everything off. We're going to go status quo. We could probably make some changes, make some cuts, but I'm not going to do anything until Jan 1. No, anybody who does that, I mean, that sets your bit. Could the business survive? Sure. Will you survive if you don't decide to make a change in your life or your overall, health habits? Yeah, you'll survive, but is it better for you in the long run? Is it going to give you the longevity that you need or that your business needs as you go on in the future? Because if you just do that, if you just chalk up 3 months as screw it, let's just put it on the back burner, we'll ride it out. The longer you do, the more you kick that can down the road, the more those problems are going to eventually begin to implode. That inflammation can go on only so long before it becomes a disaster. From the business side, bankruptcy, and from the health side, you're talking about your long-term health in regards to staving off chronic disease and stuff like that. And that kind of is what ignited a little bit of the fire in this episode. So I wanted to kind of talk about some habits that you, whether you're over the road or driving a desk, whatever you're doing, or anybody out there listening can kind of pick up on to stave off this diet starts Monday mentality. And I'm going to, leave it off with hopefully a good message to have you walking away out of this, ready to make a change, because it doesn't need to start Monday at time of recording, or if you're listening to this show on the iHeart Network, Reach Across America, it is Tuesday. You don't need to wait until next week to start going to the gym or to get a new, set of groceries for food to eat. You don't need to wait until January 1st. You don't need to, like, these benchmarks of dates or having to start at the top of the week is the most defeating thing you can ever do, is giving yourself that buffer of failure time that you're giving yourself to just put off becoming the best possible version of yourself. So waiting until Monday, all that stuff is a pre-programmed excuse that I think comes from the idea of growing up and essentially how the school schedule operates and kind of being off for summer vacations. I feel like it's programmed in our minds to do this, to be like, we're at the end of the week. Well, guess we'll just have to pick it up Monday. So hopefully some of these good tips, mindset tips, can help you eliminate the idea of needing to wait until January 1st or wait until Monday or wait until October 1st or wait until whatever, setting these timelines of start dates. And number one, which I believe is the most important that I want to lead with, and I really, really want to give a big shout out to Kevin Rutherford on this. And it's something I've known, I've read about it for the past several years, but to see it in action from the other side too, not just me doing it, but to see it happen in person is huge. And so this number one mindset technique is practicing gratitude. And it sounds corny, sounds cringe. It sounds sometimes useless to give thanks, but really there are some, connotations to, religious faith that goes in with practicing gratitude. I believe might be First Timothy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Talking about through everything, give thanks, so to speak. Like I said, I don't know my quotes offhand in the numbers, so to speak. But practicing gratitude, the idea of as soon where I have found it the most beneficial is as soon as you wake up, you do this. As soon as you wake up, you either you thank yourself for the fact that you are on two legs. I have friends who are not on two legs. Thank yourself for being able to breathe without assistance. That right there, and a massive benefit. There are a lot of people, and we saw that was a privilege, during, the COVID pandemic. That was an issue for several, thousands of people out there, all of a sudden, contracting a virus that was suppressing, their cardiovascular system. So just being able to breathe unassisted, to see with your eyes. And these are the simplest, most base things that you can give yourself gratitude for. Seeing colors. These are little things you can be like, you know what, chalk it up as a win. But at the same time, do you have a roof? Is there a dog that you're with that you have that shows you, that sort of affection? Do you have children? Do you have, children? Having children in general is something. If you are somebody who has kids, consider yourself lucky. I know the costs of what some friends of mine have paid for things like IVF. It's nothing I'll ever do if it had to come down to it. I'm not going to pay that level of money just to have a child. And no offense to anybody who's done, more power to you for being able to have that, those sorts of resources. Again, another thing to give gratitude for if that is the path you've gone down. You have to find something. And I saw Kevin Rutherford do this at the Mid-America Truck Show. And I think I had mentioned it in previous episodes where him, Truck Stop, and Kevin Rutherford were giving a presentation, and they had received some, negative feedback from the crowd. And Kevin, very strong, firm in his beliefs, which I give him a lot of respect for. They got to a point in the conversation where he knew that he would possibly say things that he would regret. And so instead of saying them, he removed himself from the situation. He left the room. He came back just a short while later, and he came back and he sat down right next to myself and Justin Martin and some other friends of the show. And we were talking. I was like, man, that was rough. And he just, and without even a moment's hesitation, he goes, you know what I just did? He goes, I walked out of here and I just thought about three things that I was thankful for today, because I was in a state of mind where I knew I couldn't be here. And as soon as I walked out those doors, I just thought about three good things in my life. And I feel 1,000 times better. And he kind of went on in conversation about how he learned how to do that. And it takes practice. This isn't overnight, because if something bad happens to you, or you take the licks, or you get yelled at by your boss or your manager or something, or you have a bad argument with a broker on the phone, whatever it might be begrudging, like it doesn't feel good as you're trying to tell yourself, hey, at least I have this. Hey, I got this. Hey, I'm thankful that I've got this today. It almost sounds like you're kind of forcing it. Like it feels fake at first, which is why it takes practice. Nobody who's batting in the major leagues today stepped up to the plate. They don't step up to the plate thinking that they're a fraud. They got there by practice alone. That's it. That's how it happens. That's how it works. But I can go in on this long enough. But again, talking to yourself, that practicing gratitude, huge mindset hack. And I believe it is the most important, and it's the easiest habit you can do. And it is one where you can't, like I just said, where it sounds fake at first, fake it till you make it, so to speak. And it's not even fake it till you make it. It's just practicing a good habit that becomes new. Nobody got good at anything without a bit of practice. You had to do it once before you can do it 1,000 times, or before somebody can get paid for it, so to speak. Number two, and this is almost just as easy as practicing gratitude, is set goals. You have to set real, obtainable goals. Now, if that goal is, and I don't want to downplay it, because it could be in the future, but if your goal is, I want to go to outer space, well, what does that look like? Do you just want to see outer space? Are you trying, like, I'm not sure what you're trying to determine there. Great goal to have. But again, why are you setting that goal in the first place is what you need to ask yourself. I think most people would want to go to space. But if you're going to set the goal of, I want to go to space, well, paint the picture. What does your life and career look like by going to outer space? So let's break it down from there real quick. So setting goals, realistic, sustainable goals that you can hit. What does that look like? So if you're a driver, you want to own your own business soon. What does that look? Set the goal. And I'm going to get into this in the next thing when it comes to visualizing these goals. But if you want to own a business, you then need to stake it out. Okay, you're going to do your research. You're going to have these conversations. You're going to talk to these people. So own a business is your goal. From there, you set out those bullet points. What's the first thing? Start right now. Not diet starts Monday. If you want to start a business, what will start moving you forward is going on LegalZoom right now and just starting the LLC. Just do it. It's a little bit of money to do it. Or if you're home, you can go to your Secretary of State. However it works, you do the articles. You file the articles with the state and you get it going. I know it's a process, but just do that. Once you get that started, then you're kind of giving yourself the kick in the butt. And I say this when I talk to people I coach at the gym. Like if you were training for a 5K, sign up for a 10K. If you're training for a half marathon, sign up for a marathon. Don't go for these half goals. If you already know you're going to beat it, or if you've already done it, sign up for the next level. Set yourself. It's the burn the ships method. If you pay for a marathon, your mind is going to be like, I have this coming. I need to do it. And you will end up doing the things you need to do to get there. You register the LLC, your brain is going to start firing off onto, okay, what do I need to do next? Okay, I need to start looking at trucks. So instead of just flipping through the magazine, you're actually going to be going out and looking for a truck you want to get. You're going to start looking for trailers. You're going to start having conversations with other owner operators, other business owners. And this is outside of trucking. This applies to whatever business you want to own. If you want to own brick and mortar, start your own plumbing business. If you just start the LLC and roll from there, you're going to start wanting to have these conversations more. If you just kick the can around and be like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it myself, but then you actually don't do anything, then that's not going to work. Along with setting goals, this applies to your health and fitness as well. You want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, you want to lose 20 pounds, write it down. When it comes to goal setting, write these goals down in a piece. It could be on your mirror. It could be in a journal, something you will look at every day. Write those goals down. And so that way you have to look at them every day. And when you look at them written down on paper in pen, not pencil or in Sharpie, when you look at them on paper every day, when you see those goals, you're going to want to do them. Just write them down. So again, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to, I'd say if I'm you, file the LLC tonight. If you're listening to this, just file for the LLC. But right now, what you can do, if you have a goal, something you want to do, go write it down. So that's 2, mindset. That's going to help fix it. Now, going right into that, you need to visualize what success looks like, or visualize these goals. So you want to be an owner operator. You want to start a trucking company. You want to start your own brokerage. You want to be this, whatever it is you want to be. You want to get this promotion at your job. You need, by visualizing it, visualizing, I kind of relate, and I know this is kind of a loaded term that you hear a lot of like online life coaches, so to speak, but the word is manifestation. And that's not just saying, well, I want a boat. If you can keep saying I want a boat over and over again, that's not how manifestation works. How it works is you want the boat. So what you start doing is acting as if you already have the boat. So that means budgeting your money as if you already have this boat. That means budgeting your money as if you already have the money for the maintenance for this boat. It means living as if the boat already exists. You need to live as though the business you want to own already exists. You need to be working and doing the duties and responsibilities of the job you want as if you are already in that job. That is the power of manifestation. That is visualizing. You need to actually see it. Not be like the entire time. And I bring this back, and you can go back to it because I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but before I ran my first marathon, it's actually all I thought about while I was driving. All I thought about as I listened to music, as I listened to podcasts, in my mind, the only thing I would think about was what it would feel like at mile marker 18 and what it would feel like crossing over the finish line. That's all I kept envisioning what it would feel like, because I already ran a half marathon, and I know the energy of these crowds and these running events, but I saw it all the time. And in turn, I visualized it as I drove. So when I parked, I went for that 6-mile run. When I parked on a 34-hour reset, I would go for that 7, 8, 9-mile run, because I saw it in my brain every day. I saw it, but then in turn went out and go do it, to go train for it. That's what you have to do. That's what visualizing, that's what manifestation is all about. Now, flip side, next mindset thing right here is you need to be embracing failure, period. And I know that this one is probably said on the most amount of podcasts about embracing failure, and the bad times will come. And we see this a lot on Freight X. Guys will heavily post about their losses a lot. They will talk about the bad that's coming, especially in the past couple of years through this freight recession, embracing that failure. There's two things out there. A lot of times we think about IQ, but also what we forget about is EQ. So your IQ is your overall intelligence. You can have a really high IQ, but if you have a really low EQ, then how you react to certain things. So you could be really, really smart, but if something bad happens to you, or if an issue comes your way and you can't react and you get flustered and you end up like those types of people end up quitting. Really, really smart people fail all the time, and they fail and never come back because of that EQ, that emotional quotient. So yeah, they have the brains, the knowledge, they might know accounting, they can know numbers, they can know finance, they can know all these things. But if they don't have the gall and the fortitude to push past the mistakes, the failures, the bad that's going to come, possibly, the relationships that end up getting peeled off along the way. If you can't handle that, then it's not going to work out. And so you need to embrace those failures. And I talked about it on another episode, several episodes ago. The biggest failure I had to embrace was parking my truck. So I had to embrace that. And then I had to own it. And then I had to keep going, because I had no thought in my mind that as soon as I parked this truck, that's it. I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel, and I'm leaving the industry for good. I've said it before in countless times. I've never shut the door on getting behind the wheel of a truck again. And I was actually just talking to an amazing person, Mike Bush, about this. I was visualizing what my entire mission is moving forward with this driver health and fitness thing, and working in a marketing consulting perspective of getting other brands in front of this issue with driver health. And on the timeline, so you have, if I have this big pyramid of what I'm trying to do, and to just give you guys some inside baseball in case you're curious on what I'm trying to do, is at the overarching top, like if there's a top thing that I'm like reaching for, like going for ham, it's bring back lumbar trucking without a doubt. My family owned a motor carrier from 1923 to 1984. I love a comeback story. The greatest story ever to ever happen is Napoleon's escape from exile from Elba. Like, hello, if one of you wants to shoot your emperor, shoot me. That type of comeback. Like, I'm all about the comeback story. But what does it realistically look like getting there? Because if I was still in my truck, which, by the way, my truck is still on the road. I sold it to a gentleman who's in Belton, and unfortunately, I keep getting toll bills in the mail, which I keep having to dispute, which is state by state that he goes through in tolls, and I have to keep sending the vehicle transfer notice to it. So the truck is still working, and if that was me still behind the wheel, given the current freight market, the only revenue I'd be bringing in was just to save up for my next breakdown. That's all I'd be doing, is doing that. Wouldn't be growing, wouldn't be doing anything like that. How many years was I going to do that until I finally could get truck number 2? And at what point would my mind still be in the right mindset to do that? Or to be I don't know. I can't tell you. But enough about that. Overarching goal, I would do anything to get trucks back, to have a fleet, to be the owner of a motor carrier and the carrier itself lives under the same brand that I live every day, that has to do with treating people right, respect, that can get drivers home, on a regular basis, or works in a sector of freight where drivers can get home, cares about their health and fitness, and offers incentives for being healthy, all that sort of stuff. I'd love to have a motor carrier like that. How do I get there? I mean, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing right now. But I have to embrace failure to do it. I had to park my truck, get out, get myself credentialed, working in the fitness industry, learning more about something I am also passionate about, while also not giving up, while still going to these events. And look, I'm not making, it's not like I'm rolling in the dough here. But what I can tell you is, through embracing this failure and where I'm currently at, I couldn't tell you, I feel some of the happiest I've ever been in my life, having conversations like with gentlemen like Mike Bush, and going to the AmBest conference, and going again. I can't wait for Broker Carrier Summit coming up in, just over a month, just to be able to go to those events and have those conversations with those people. I had to embrace failure. I had to embrace failure every single breakdown. I listed this previously, but if this is your first time tuning in, I have had to embrace failure ever since 2012. I got out of the military, realized that was probably a bad idea. It was a failure. All these times, every job that I had to quit is a failure. Like, I didn't get to the level that I wanted to be at or needed to be at. So many things along the way, so many mistakes I've made, all are failures. And now I could have just imploded, erupted, and I could still be at home, living with my parents, staying in Connecticut, not sniffing the words Ironman, because that's what I can tell you. If I didn't embrace failure, in no way would I even be talking about stuff like Ironman, or raising money for it, or doing any of the stuff I'm doing. You need to embrace that failure, because that is where you learn. You will learn more through those failures. Because you're not going to learn from your wins, because to win, you did what you already knew. So the knowledge you already had is what got you that victory. You're not going to learn from that. You're going to learn from where you failed. So that way, when you get back up and it's your next time at bat, when you get back up, you're ready to take it on. I know. So that way, when I know that when I get trucks again, I know how the game works. And also along the way, by sticking through and sticking with this mission and caring about people and wanting other people to win, I'm building connections with these people along the way and making friends with a good amount of people. So that way, when I do get trucks and I'm looking for some stuff to move, maybe they'll work with me. Maybe they'll help me out along the way, because I gave them one piece of advice that helped them out. That's what we got to look at. And that tailors right into this next mindset thing. And this is one that is very, very hard because it can go into your family. It can go into a lot of different directions, but it has to do with surrounding yourself with positivity. And I say this a lot, and I'm going to start right with social media because I say this a lot. What are you consuming? What are you consuming on a daily basis? If you're listening to this podcast, you consume social media content. Are you consuming stuff that helps you or hurts you? Does it make you feel good or does it make you feel like garbage? Does it make you happy? Does it make you sad? Start right there because that's the easiest place to start. What are you consuming on the internet on a daily basis? Me, the things I follow, very fitness related. My sponsored ads have to do with triathlon stuff. If you didn't know, I signed up for my second marathon before I ever ran my first. And I signed up for that second marathon due to a sponsored ad I got on Instagram while I was waiting for a tire to get fixed at a Love's in Troy, Texas, off of 35. I was eating a Subway sandwich, which, by the way, if you want to make it healthy, reach out. I was eating a Subway sandwich and I was scrolling Instagram and I got a sponsored ad for the Missoula Marathon. And I was signed up in 30 seconds. I signed up for it without a bit of hesitation. So that's the positivity that flung my way, sponsored ad to go run a race. So what are you consuming on the internet? Who are you surrounding yourself with there? Answer those questions. Is it making you happy or sad? Is it helping you or hurting you? Go from there. But also it has everything to do with who's in your life, your circle of friends. And this is where it becomes tough, having to disengage or stop talking to people who you've been friends with for a long period of time, who are no longer giving you energy. And this is something that I've been saying a lot lately, is I like to surround myself with people who give me energy. Because, and I think everybody can relate to this, those type of people that when, you're hanging out with the crowd or you're hanging out with your friends, they take the energy from the room. They kind of make it about them. And there's this poor me. And there's this kind of like pig pen, from Peanuts, negative aura floating around them that just like kind of takes the energy from the room, but you tolerate it because you guys have known, you've known this person maybe since middle school or high school or whatever. And they don't do anything inherently bad. They don't steal. They're not evil. They don't like use you as a person, but just their entire aura takes. You need to disassociate with those people. Sometimes those people can be your own family members. This is where it gets very hard when it comes to mindset. But it's just like if you quit smoking. It's just like when you lose a little bit of weight. It's the same type of thing. Is it hard? Yes. Is it very difficult? Does it come with pain and a withdrawal? Yes. But in the end, you wind up walking away feeling so much better when you're able to pull and remove yourself from having these people a part of your life. If they are taking your energy, it is not worth your time. And it is only in that on a long enough timeline, if you continue to associate those people, you may wind up in failure because your mind has been so intoxicated by their garbage and negativity and just overall bad aura that your own potential, your own mindset is going to hold you back because you've been around that. We are products of the environment we're in, no matter what, no matter how you chop it up. That's the old saying. If you hang out with 5 millionaires, you hang out with 5 drug addicts, you hang out with 5 scumbags, however you want to chop it up. Hang out with 5 millionaires, odds are probably wind up being the 6th. If you can't cut those negative people out, you can't expect to grow from it. And this last one I want to bring up is you need to identify your thoughts. Now, this is also one of the most difficult things too, because it takes a sort of a deep diagnostic of what you're thinking about. So on the one end, you have the very simple practicing gratitude. And then we also talked about embracing failure. Now, throughout your day, and again, because when we talk about physical health a lot on this show, we do need to touch on the mental health, because this plays into kind of like you do push-ups to build a strong chest. Doing this right here, the identifying your thoughts and being able to note them and what they are and how they're making you feel is like doing push-ups for your mental health. It is going to make your mind that much stronger. when you realize, and this comes with, you have a bad conversation, say, for example, this broker's not giving you detention. You are angry. At that point, you need to identify that you are angry. So seeing it, knowing it, and then putting it in this hand, putting it in the other, and then it's being like, okay, I was angry for a minute. I realize it. Now what can I do? You got to move a muscle, change a thought. When you have these bad thoughts going on in your mind of the idea of, I'm not worth it, I'm not going to make it, all those sorts of thoughts, you need to identify them, reel back, reload, recalibrate, ask, is this true? It is not. Find that out, and then you have to then take it out. Or you can, it's very hard to just take it out, but sit with it. So you had this thought, I am this, write it down. Write it down. I had this thought on this day at this time. And then write, is this true? Do that. The idea for all of these things I just told you about, if you can break down and get yourself a journal and write down any of these things as they pop to mind, putting it pen to paper, getting it from here onto paper, or even on your laptop, however you want to type it up, that right there is going to make you easily identify your thoughts in so many different ways. And when you do that, you're doing the push-ups for your mind to help you get it done. But those are some quick mindset hacks that I wanted to give you guys to keep you guys away from this whole diet starts Monday mentality. But I wanted to leave you with this, because what ties into this diet starts Monday mentality is the overlying problem. And so the overlying problem of the mindset of where you're saying, oh, diet starts Monday, is ego. So ego is the overarching thing here that essentially is the reason why you need to hone in on all of these kind of mindset techniques and practices I talked about. Now, when we think of ego actually works in two ways. So the first way you think of ego is somebody who takes tremendous pride in themselves. And so through that pride and confidence, they will always go ruthlessly towards a goal. And in some ways that can be good or bad. Some people take that ego and they go full speed ahead, and they tarnish relationships along the way, and where they may find short-term success, and long-term it ends up not working out, and then they have to learn from their failures. This is kind of one that I have a little bit of familiarity with, and I know people who have ran into this issue to where they've gone full bore into it in ruthless pursuit of a goal, and they had short-term success, but ended up things end up kind of tearing apart at the seams. We see this. You can say this is what happens to companies like Enron. That type of ego. At the end of the day, that type of ego. We're too good. How it will never happen to us. It becomes flying too close to the sun thing. But the second way ego works, and it's funny because it's almost in the same way, but almost like the dark shadow version. And this is how most people are using ego. And the reason why it's most people is because this is why most people are faced with some of the things they talk about on this show, like, chronic health issues, or not being where they want to be, not hitting their goals. And they're doing exactly so the same people who end up failing because their ego gets in the way of what's going on, and they end up ruining relationships and they lead to failure. That's exactly how ego works. But in the opposite is where you're letting your own ego get in the way of the truth. So if somebody tells you, kind of like, and I remember this from when I was overweight, and I remember going to the VA, and I was actually talking to somebody a therapist in the mental health clinic. And this guy, he didn't look too great himself, but he was, I had been talking about how I was unhappy with how I looked and how much weight I had gained. And he said, and he asked me, he said, why did I let it happen? And I immediately I was brought back. I was like, why did I let it happen? I didn't, at that point in time, I feel as though I didn't let it happen. In reality, I did. And he told me that I needed to change. I didn't like that. And when people tell you that you need to change, nobody likes that because of your ego. Your ego does not allow you for somebody to tell you that you need to change, especially when you're in a state of despair, of sadness, of failure. Somebody says, you need to make a change. We're in this position of self-defense. We're hurting. And then you're telling me that you're in a way we translate it to being wrong. People don't like to be told that. That's that ego. In the same, but in that same aspect, because this was me in a lot of ways, one that I see, because I had people tell me this throughout my 20s a lot, is they will always tell you, you are capable of so much more. You're capable of so much more. And when people would tell me I'm capable of so much more, I didn't like it. And that's a lot of other people out there. Being told that you are capable of more means, the translation, your ego, if it's at that point, is trying to say you're not doing enough. Ego gets in the way of it. Your ego has set you back so much, and it can set you back so much. And this is how it's happened with me, that you've actually fallen in love with the fact that you just don't like yourself. You fell in love with hating yourself so much that the only decisions you've become capable of making are the ones you want to make. And that's where you end up going down the road. That's how ego can actually lead you to failure before you ever succeed, is that we all have ego, but how we use it, how it translates, and how it determines things ends up determining how we feel about ourselves. For some people, they end up feeling very great, almost to the point to where it flies them close to the sun, and they fail. But some people learn and they balance out and they ride it and realize that they are worth what they're worth and capable of what they're capable of. But for other people, they know that they're capable of more, but when they're told it, it hurts them. It sets it back. And you end up becoming into this self-loathing time. You get into this self-loathing mindset. Use these tools I talked about in the episode to fix it. It's what I've had to do to fix it, because I was that guy who didn't like myself. I was that guy who fell in love with it, who just thought this is the way it is. But again, and this might hurt to hear, I'm here to tell you that you are capable of more. You are capable of becoming whatever the best possible version of you looks like. You are capable of running that marathon. You are capable of losing 20, 30, 100 pounds. You're 100% worthy to do it. You've got it in you. There's no difference between you and I. If you're listening to this, it means I'm talking to you. There's no difference between you and I. Nothing makes me better than you. Nothing makes me smarter than you. None of that is realistic. We're all human. We were all put here with these same sorts of abilities and with the same brains and with a lot of the same resources, especially if you live in America. If you're here now, you have the capabilities of doing so much more beyond where I'm going, beyond where others are going. You might see these people on LinkedIn, CEOs, business guys. You might see them and you may think, they had something more than me. No, they didn't. They used their ego the right way. They practiced some of these habits. They met the right people. They talked. They surrounded themselves with positivity, and they kept moving forward. They embraced failure. They visualized their success. None of these people maybe you look up to, whether they're online influencers, whatever they are, not one of them ever got to their position of where they were and didn't see themselves there before they got there. Start seeing yourself already there. I'm telling you, there's nobody out there that's going to root for you more than me. There's nobody out there that wants you to win more than me. Whatever winning looks like, I want to help you write that story. If there's negative people in your life you need to box out, you call me. You bring me in the loop, bring me in the aura, bring me in your Venn diagram, and we'll start changing it. We'll start turning things around. Do not let your ego convince you to hate yourself to the point where you're held back from your fullest, absolute, God-given potentials. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. Again, don't wait till Monday. Don't wait till 2025. Start right now. Get after it. We're going back to the bench. Take care.